Hi, I'm Joanne from the Full Spectrum Centre Limited, an award-winning wellness and vocational training centre, and you're listening to the Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast. This show is all about physical, mental, emotional and spiritual wellness, and it's for people who are looking to improve their overall health and well-being. Each week, I'll share with you all the positive takeaways, tools, techniques and tips that I've gathered in both my personal and professional wellness journey that will help you to look, feel and be well. With a dose of motivation and meditation to keep you going, I'll be joined by a few friends who will be sharing their insights along the way too. Welcome to episode 8 of our Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast. I'm so happy and excited to be back here with you for our 8th episode. I'm excited because this week I'm joined by my fellow therapist and friend Catherine Shaw from Shaw Therapies. Catherine is a qualified and experienced holistic therapist, Reiki master teacher and hypnotherapist who is as passionate as I am about all things wellness. Catherine shares a little about her own wellness and self-care journey, her career, and imparts some fantastic advice and golden nuggets to inspire you to live a healthier, happier, and more balanced lifestyle. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Jo. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for being a guest on our Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
My first question for you, and I'll be asking all of my guests this, what does the word wellness mean to you?
Wellness to me is being contented, sort of emotionally, mental health-wise, physical, social. It's just being happy within myself and the circumstances that I'm in. And if I start feeling that there's any discomfort or I'm struggling anyway, then it's really sitting down and looking at what I need to do. But it is a combination for me of being kind of happy, settled, contented, and confident as well.
Yeah, I think that's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you are a fellow holistic complementary therapist and hypnotherapist like myself. So I want to know, when did you first become interested in complementary and holistic therapies?
Oh, a long time ago. It's over 30 years when I first started to look at meditation. And as you know, once you start on this journey, lots of doors open up. So over the last 30 years, I think I've tried just about anything that's been going, any opportunities that I've had. But as you know, hypnotherapy is my passion, and it's just kind of evolved from the meditation all the way through to where I am now. It's been a long journey. It's been a fun journey, even though it's been quite emotional at times, which I think everybody else goes through as well. So it has been a long journey, varied, very interesting.
How did you kind of get into it? How did that interest manifest itself? What triggered that?
I think I was struggling at the time, not very happy, not knowing which direction to go. It had been instilled in me that there were 3 generations of nurses in the family already, and I was expected to follow suit, and I didn't want to. But not having the confidence to fight against the family, I went along with it. So at 19, I went into nursing. Didn't really settle, although I did enjoy it. Lots of contradictory feelings and emotions going on. Somebody suggested that I tried meditating just to clear my mind a bit, calm my mind down, so I wasn't racing all the time. And it was a struggle because when I first started, it was very much, right, sit down, close your eyes, take a deep breath and stop thinking, which for somebody like me who's pretty hyper emotionally, didn't work. being expected to sit there quietly for 20 minutes was not on the agenda as far as I was concerned. And I kind of thought about it because I knew quite a lot of people that were meditating. So I thought there has to be something else here. And then I was introduced to Reiki. And from there, really, it was a bit of a snowball. It just, if I could do something, I did it. If I had an opportunity, I took it. So I attended lots of mindful classes, stress awareness classes. There was a lot going on in Glossop at the time. In the sort of mid-80s, there was the area seemed to be flooded with wellness sessions, which for me was like all the Christmases had come at once at the time. So I just attended so many different things and gravitated towards the massage, the Reiki. And then with the hypnotherapy, it was a little bit more of a struggle because I did my counselling qualification and I really couldn't settle with the Rogerian person-centred. I needed something a little bit more. So very much kind of connected with the Gestalt type work where you could release emotions and really get out what is going on inside for you. So I really got a lot of benefit out of that. Didn't particularly pursue it. And then as a sort of circle turn, the wheel goes round. I went to Matlock to a Mind Body Spirit Fair. And I met a guy called John Richardson. So I went as a client of his and found that hypnotherapy cleared so much emotional baggage, if you like. So many ties were cut from the past. If it wasn't for going through hypnotherapy, then I wouldn't be where I was now. I would still be struggling. I would still not have any confidence in myself and my abilities. So once I did that and felt the benefits that I got, so much easier than I found the counselling. And I appreciate that everybody works different and we have to have that relationship with our therapist regardless of what we're doing. And maybe that was the biggest part that was lacking for me in counselling. But my journey, I got there, this is my route through. So having felt the benefits, and it is, although it's very emotional and it can very much take us by surprise because we never really know what our triggers are or what's going to come up for us. I did find it very effective, but kind of gentle as well with the emotional release. And I thought, if I can get that level of benefit, then I really would like to be able to pass that on to others and really kind of spread the word. So that is why I went and did my basic, my original diploma.
Yeah.
And then went on from that to do analytical hypnotherapy. And I do have an interest in women's health. So I've done the hypnobirthing and the menopause. So again, it's a gravitation over once I have sort of a general idea about what was happening and how I felt in situations, that I'm gravitating towards women's health with an avid interest in the trauma aspect as well.
For our listeners, can you just explain a little bit about analytical hypnotherapy in case they haven't heard that term before?
Analytical hypnotherapy differs from sort of the suggestion or the directive because not everybody knows where issues lie. Some people just struggle with, sort of any understanding of why they feel how they do. So the analytical hypnotherapy allows you to explore a lot of different areas to unlock the memories and unlock the subconscious mind to allow the understanding to come forward. Because we all know what it is. We've all experienced the the issues, the barriers, or the things that cause the barriers. But it's locked down in our subconscious. So we need to release that. Now, any hypnotherapy will do that, but analytical is a little more focused and probably a little bit more sort of directive.
Okay. Thanks for explaining that, because I don't, it's not a term I think a lot of people will have heard. Obviously, within our environment, our industry, we've heard it, but for people that are just listening, they've probably never come across that term. And it's a fascinating topic, isn't it? I mean, the benefits of hypnotherapy and how powerful it can be, especially, as you say, unlocking trauma. But it's probably not an avenue people would naturally think about if they don't know anything about complementary therapies. So thank you for sharing that. You touched a little bit about how you got into therapies, and I think there's lots of synchronicities, not just between you and I, but a lot of therapists kind of fall into it because they're on their own wellness journey, their own healing journey. And a lot of us come into it because we were poorly ourselves, and it's what helped us. And we kind of then want to investigate that even more. And it's funny, the synchronicities with, you said, generations of nurses. My mum was a nurse, and it was kind of expected that, but I don't like blood. I've got a needle phobia. I'm not particularly fond of vomit. So for me, that was a no-no. So it was never going to be. But you touched, like I say, you touched a little bit about on why you were interested in therapy. So, and I wanted to talk to you about your own personal wellness journey and what are some of the challenges that you faced before you found therapies and you got into it through that route.
Yeah, I really didn't have a very happy childhood. The relationship with my mother was very poor. I suppose we don't think about what we're doing a lot of time. We see adults, when we're children, we see adults acting in a way and we think that is okay and that's the way we behave. So I was bullied as a child, which kind of compounded the messages that I was getting about not being lovable, not being wanted, and really feeling very, very isolated. And this impacted on my ability to forge friendships, relationships, in my personal life and in my professional life. And I think I got to the point where I was in a very dark place, believed that nobody wanted me around, but there was still that part of me saying, this is rubbish. It's not true. There's issues that, mum's experience that she's venting on me, which actually turned out to be quite true later in life. And as I say, other family members, sort of my generation, saw the way that I was treated and they treated me the same way, but they obviously weren't aware about the damage that was being caused to me. They thought that was the way things were. I got to the point where I really felt that I had to do something or I was really, really going to go under. Mm-hmm. And that was when I really got on the road to kind of trust somebody and say, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this. And that's where because there was so much going on in my head. This is why they suggested meditation, just to try to slow everything down, learn the breathing, learn the mind control. Then you can start looking at your mindset. But of course, our mental state manifests into physical, because I'd always lived a hypervigilant lifestyle, being very cautious about what I did, what I said, how I did things. My physical health was suffering as well. I was getting aches and pains and high levels of fatigue. And it was a real deep need and almost kind of a panic state that I've got to get out of here. I've got to do something. I've got to change. That in itself, once you start on this journey, well, when I started my journey, I found that other relationships started to get very hostile because as my world changed, they lost control of me. I wouldn't conform any longer to what they wanted. But the sense of liberation and of actually starting to find myself was far greater than the feeling of fear and loss that I was then experiencing. So although there was an anxiety that I could actually find myself alone on my own, I trusted that I could make friends, that I was able to relate to people. So I continued. And sometimes it does feel like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and is this worth it? But then when you think about how far you can travel in quite a short period of time with the understanding that you gain from doing this kind of work, it really was worth me carrying on. So from there, things drastically changed. I standing up for myself, and as I say, that caused conflict. But again, the way you present, one of the things that my original counsellor said was, own what you're saying. So I very much use I, me, rather than, when you do this, it's when I do this, I feel whatever.
Yeah.
And people look at you a bit strange to start with. It's like, what are you saying? What are you doing? But then no. And they say, well, I didn't do that. I said, no, you didn't. I didn't say you did. I said, this is how I feel. It's not particularly what you've done. It's how I respond to what you've done. And I don't feel comfortable. So it is, I said it earlier, but it is so liberating that once I started to own my own feelings, my own emotions, and taking responsibility for myself was really hard because I could no longer point the finger at anybody else and displace the blame. But getting used to that made it easier to cut those unhealthy ties.
Yeah.
And with that comes a whole new tribe, far healthier associations. It's riding the storm a lot of the time and just trusting that you can do it and that you do have that resilience to make the change, because it gets frightening sometimes. It's really scary.
Yeah.
But just keep pushing through to come out the other side, and it's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I always say to my clients and my learners, healing isn't all unicorn and rainbows. It's uncomfortable, it hurts, but that is temporary. However long that process takes, you do come out of the other side, don't you? And it is brighter, and that's when the unicorn and rainbows appear. But that process is furthest from that, isn't it? Of all the challenges that you have faced, what would you say the biggest challenge has been?
I think the biggest challenge was actually starting, just doing something. Because once you take that first step, your world will start to rock a little bit. You start the change. So once you start the change and you feel a difference or you see the potential, it's really difficult to go back. Once you anchor that feeling and you believe it, it's one thing seeing it and thinking you can do it, but once you believe you can do it and you know you have the capability of doing it, this is where I felt that I used to take a step back, but then I couldn't settle there. I had to move forward again. Yeah. And it's being kind with yourself when you feel that you've taken a step back. You just need that rest. You need maybe the security. Comfortable in an uncomfortable place isn't bad as long as you know that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But what I say to my clients, because one thing that I learned through childhood was don't cry, because once you cry, you're a target and things are going to get worse. I think I was well into my 30s before I cried in front of anybody else. It takes quite a lot of strength and trust to let emotions out. So what I say to my clients is, you have to find that strength to release it, because once you release it, especially with the hypnotherapy, we're looking at cutting the ties, the emotional ties. Because if you can cut the emotional tie to an event, you can look back at the event without the fear, without the anxiety, without the upset. It's factual. This happened, I did this, they did that, this happened out of our control, I could have done that different. But you don't have all the self-blame or the displaced blame to others. You can start to accept it for what it is and then move forward in a very much more healthy state.
Yeah. Yeah, again, synchronicities. I was bullied at school. I also had workplace bullying throughout my career before I became a therapist. And you're right, you learn to put on that tough exterior, because once they see you are upset, it makes it even worse. They target you even more. So that I think that was one of my biggest challenges, was to show that emotion. And then for a while I went the opposite way and was over emotional. And you've got to learn how to manage your emotions.
Absolutely, it is, isn't it? It's like one of the it's almost like a wrecking ball.
Yeah,
it does feel quite, well, it's very emotional, but it can feel quite out of control at times.
Yeah.
But
I don't know whether you did the same as I did. So for many years, I was totally unemotional, even in situations when I was married, and, even in the happy times, I wasn't, sometimes I felt like I wasn't in my body.
Yes.
And I wouldn't, I'd laugh to mask that, and I would look like I'm laughing at something that was funny, and I would look like I was upset, but really I was not even in my body. I was just totally disconnected. So when you start to do that work, and it's like flicking a switch, and then all the emotions come flooded in, and you're almost like, what's that? I've never really felt that before. And that can be really scary.
Yeah. But people are frightened. They say, if I let it out, I'm never going to stop. You might cry for a long time, but nobody's ever cried forever. The longer we've held something in, and the longer we've not been able to express our emotions, probably the more force it's going to have behind it when it does come out.
Yeah.
But I always say to my clients, let it go. Yeah. Because crying is cleansing, it's very healing. And once you've released that, you can get such a sense of release and relief. Just have to take whatever steps, find that safe environment, find that person that you trust, that you actually connect with, that doesn't need to be somebody you've known for a long time. It's just trusting that they can manage you releasing those emotions, which is why I think therapists are good, because we have had our own journeys.
Yeah.
So although we don't fully understand how somebody else feels, we can kind of walk beside them.
Yeah.
But we don't have the emotional investment. So they don't need to be frightened of how it's going to impact my relationship with them or your relationship with your clients. Let it go and walk away. Whereas when it's somebody that's close to us, whether it's family, friends, partners, whatever, we always wonder how what we say or what we do is going to affect our relationships tomorrow, next week, the week after. Is it going to be banked to be thrown back at me at some time? And whether it's release during holistic therapy, a massage or Reiki, because I think you understand as well how people with Reiki really get quite strong emotional releases. And whether it's counselling, hypnotherapy, it's just allowing that energy to go.
Yeah. And it's very much like you say, it's about finding the right tool for you and what works for you. And at that time, so that tool, your massage might work to release something one week, but then a few weeks later, you might need hypnotherapy. It's not one size fits all for one person all of the time. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's important to just touch on how beneficial massage is at releasing emotional stuff. A lot of clients think it's just, if I've got a bad back, I'll go and get a massage, but it's absolutely much more than that. It's much more than the physical, and it's such an amazing tool to use. I don't know how you
often
feel
do we
about that.
hear, though, either during a massage or after a massage, that people didn't even realize how tense the shoulders were?
Yeah.
Because once we start holding that tension, it becomes normalized.
Yeah.
So our threshold increases. So as we get more stressed, more tense, we don't notice it as quickly. When we start to relax and we learn what a relaxed body, a relaxed muscle feels like, it's like, wow. But from that point, you can start to learn and notice your triggers, your stresses. And if you take notice, and I mean, anybody that's listened to this that's been a client or is a client of mine will know that I very often use the analogy of driving a car. Mm-hmm. When you first get in a car, when you first start to drive, you get in, close the door. Is it out of gear? Put the key in, and everything is the minutest step-by-step process. After a few months of driving, or, you know, especially after a year or so, you can be halfway down the road before you've even thought about what you're doing.
Yeah.
You kind of go on automatic pilot. Learning to relax really is no different. Mm-hmm. You have to take it in small steps. When you've had your massage or your therapy, whichever one you choose, really sit down and take notice about how your body feels. And then maybe when you have your coffee break, sit down and just spend a few minutes. How do I feel? Where are my shoulders? Are they up by my ears? Are they nice and relaxed? And then you can reflect and think, oh yes, this made me tense. This upset, you know, I got upset when this happened. And, you know, this was a stressful situation. So after similar situations in the future, you can bring yourself down again. Eventually it becomes, you know, a little bit more normalized. We all get stressed. We all get tense. But we can do things to reduce that and manage it.
So how do you deal with your stress? What do you do to de-stress?
Oh, I've got a cuddly pooch.
I've got one of them. I've got two of them.
My old girl, she's always the best welcome when I come home. Mm-hmm. I live on my own now, so she really is the best welcome when coming home. So I love being outdoors. I love being outside. So, of course, having a dog is twice a day. She's very active. Even though she's 11, she's still very active. So long walks. We generally have an hour's walk in the morning, an hour's walk in the afternoon, plus whatever I can, you know, sort of do in between. Obviously, if I'm off, we can go out for longer if I'm not working. But, you know, even on a busy work day, we get the 2 long walks in for her, because obviously she needs looking after. But that helps. We go down woodlands or up the hills. When I can get away, I do like camping. I love just getting a tent, going somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi. I just say, that's where I am. I'll leave a note. If I don't come home, that's where you need to look for me. So disappear with my tent, no technology.
Yeah.
And just, you know what, Jo? Walking barefoot in grass is so peaceful, or, you know, sort of peace invoking for me. I love that. I love being near water. I love going for a swim in the sea or in one of the local reservoirs. And even though I don't do it over winter, I'm not that brave or hardy, but even as this time of year when it starts to cool down, the coldness and the freshness really kind of settles my mind, and it just makes me feel enlivened again. So, and then just a good variety of hobbies. As you know, I'm an incessant studier. You know, I love learning. I love finding new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
I like doing needlework, knitting, embroidery. So it's kind of things to do as a downtime as well as an active time.
Yeah.
So just trying to find that balance as well for being out.
And that's important, isn't it? So how do you balance work and home life, so your work-life balance?
It took a lot, I must admit, and I'd still do slip at times, but it's setting boundaries and being very firm with those boundaries. So you decide, or, you know, everybody's got to earn a living and get, you know, cover the cost of living and things, which I think for a lot of us is probably one of the most stressful parts of our daily lives, because of the pressure that we can be under to meet those work demands. But for me, it's very much setting those clear boundaries. It's keeping contact. My children now are all in the 30s. But for me, it's still very, very important that I have regular contact with them. I try to see them face to face at least once a week, although one of my lads works away a lot, so I only really tend to get to see him about once a fortnight. But it's so easy to communicate these days. We have text messages, we've got emails, we've got FaceTime. You know, there's all different ways of keeping in contact. So that is what I make sure that I do on a regular basis. And friends.
Yeah.
I think we all need a support network. We are social beings. So I make sure that I do have social activities. But one of the hardest things for me is actually setting those work, home time boundaries and not letting the work encroach too much that actually prevents me doing family or social time.
Yeah, and I think that's, it comes part and parcel with what we do, because I know a lot of clients will say to me, do you not take a day off? And I'm like, it's not really work for me. I get to sit in a room with colour therapy lights, beautiful music played all day. I whenever I'm doing a Reiki treatment, I get Reiki treatment myself. So it's not like sitting in an office doing 9 to 5. We don't have the same pressures in terms of work related stress. So it's very easy to work too much because it's not like a normal job. I don't know if you feel the same. It's easy to slip into that pattern because it isn't like a job.
Absolutely. When I think my mental health was probably a lot worse than I realised at the beginning of the year when I left my paid employment.
Yeah.
And it was quite good to start with because all the stress and all the pressure just went. As soon as I walked out that door, I said, I'm not coming back. That pressure went. But then after a couple of weeks, I felt very unsteady, very unstable because I didn't have that stress. And I think my brain just said, I don't know what's happening now. You've got...
Yeah, you were so used to it.
Yeah, I was seeing clients, trying to build my own business up. And yeah, working 7 days a week and sometimes till 1 or 2 in the morning. But then as things settle, again, it's putting the effort in to be self-aware and valuing yourself, regardless of what you do, regardless of what you have or don't have in life. We all have self-worth and self-value. And we should have a high level of self-love, which I think we lack as a, a general sweeping statement. So then I sat back and reflected and thought, yeah, I'm doing all kinds. And like you say, it's not like working. It's so pleasurable. And we have such fantastic clients, which makes it an absolute pleasure just to go into work, to earn a living, which, let's face it, that's why we're doing this. Yeah. We need to earn a living, but it isn't like working. It really isn't. It's so much fun.
It's so rewarding as well.
Just to see the changes in our clients is priceless, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely
priceless. And
you just don't get the same feeling as getting you're documenting on a deadline when you're working. It's just not the same feeling, is it?
Yeah, when they don't bother with all it. I mean, I was as guilty as anybody because you'd get a psychiatry or a psychology report that's like 30 pages. You read the conclusion because all you want to know is what's wrong with the client and what we're going to do. What's the care plan? What's the diagnosis? So when I saw people turning my documents over to the last page and reading the conclusion, I was like, all that effort? Really? But then you think, rein it in, because that's what you do to the other professionals as well, because we're busy. We can sit and go through the body of most of it at a later date, but when you are working to frantic deadlines, you learn to find the bits in reports and documents that you need there and then like life histories and things, you go back. But we only see kind of the good things, don't we? We see people coming in who are quite stressed, quite anxious, very tense. But then over the weeks, we see the improvement, and we get that gratitude because our skills are helping them.
Yeah.
But we get the pleasure because, as I said before, we've got fantastic clients.
We really do. If you're listening and you're one of our clients, we love you. We are very grateful.
We really do.
We're so lucky. So you've touched on how you manage your stress, but what does your daily self-care and self-love routine look like? What do you do to make sure you do that every day?
For me, the start is definitely planning. Mm-hmm. So if I am, whatever I have to do today, I live on lists. So for my mental health, to keep my stress down, I plan. So very much, this needs to be done this morning, this I can do that this afternoon, and this later on in the day. But then decide what time I'm finishing work. Get off out for a walk. It's, really good. I don't think we understand when we find somewhere or an environment that we really enjoy being in or getting away from, that just the fresh air and walking, a little bit of exercise, does us the world of good. So getting out, do a bit of walking, bit of meditating, rubbish TV sometimes, nothing too taxing, don't want to particularly concentrate.
What's your guilty pleasure? What's the show that is you won't tell anyone what you watch?
At the moment, Virgin River.
I've not heard of that one.
Watched it, the last one of the last series or the latest series last night. So it's like, no, got a year to wait now. So I've got to find something else. But then just relaxing, find, and what I also do is plan things. What do I want to do? So this is where Facebook, because I don't like Facebook, as you know.
You don't like technology, full stop.
No, I don't. Quite true. But Facebook is good for the events. So you can find different things. So follow different people, make sure that, I kind of got some idea about any ceremonies or events that are coming up that I'd like to go to and can go to. I think we need the sort of nature of the beast these days, just to get away from technology, be kind to ourselves and connect, which I love the sound baths. I love gongs. Mm-hmm. I was at Gorton Monastery on Sunday. There's a couple, Jason and Nicola. Nicola's just launched a book. That was part of the event. But just connecting with people of similar beliefs to me, being able to relax and just let go and, sort of connect with that authentic self. I know that sounds a bit hippy-dippy, but we all have an authentic self. And if we can connect with what we truly gut-wrenching enjoy, that we don't have to think about what other people are thinking about us. We can just do it and be fully, sort of submerged in an activity. And if I can find something like that, then I'm there. I'm in it.
Yeah, I loved your post that you put on today about the mask. Yes. And that really kind of, I was out at the doctor's actually waiting for my appointment, and it popped up on my phone, and that just the visual of it, of that mask, was like, wow. And it is, whether we've got anything wrong or not, we all wear masks and different hats. When we're in work, we've got our therapist mask and hat on. When we're at home, with the dogs, I've got my mummy, dog mama hat and mask on. And we do have to put different masks on for different situations. And you're right, it's so important to have that time where you can take the hat and the mask mask off and you can just be you and not worry about what other people are thinking or saying, and just really get engrossed in what it is you need to do for your self-care and self-love.
I mean, I think the mask that I really am thankful to get rid of is that authoritarian power base that I used to have. I mean, not that I was in a very powerful, but you working within the criminal justice system, you have to have that air of authority and that air of, confidence that really didn't sit well with me. I don't want to be doing that. I want to be more relaxed and work with people. I've always worked with people, and I understand that sometimes people, they don't act as society and communities expect, and the behaviour is harmful. So the changes are needed, and some people need managing and controlling. Would never ever dispute that, but that power-based kind of feeling where you are controlling people didn't always sit well with me. Very valuable work, again, wouldn't ever dispute any level of the work that I did, and it was enjoyable for a lot of time. But then I started thinking, I need to be in touch with the me that I want to be, rather than the me that I have to be to earn a living. So shedding the masks, you can, very many masks, and I'm not saying that I'm mask free now, because I'm not. If I have to go and give a presentation or a talk, believe me, that mask is well and firmly glued onto my face, because my knees will be trembling and my stomach will be churning, but I do my utmost to hide it. Because I do know what I'm doing, and I want to portray that. I don't want to portray a dithering wreck, which is probably how I'm feeling inside.
It's like the swan, isn't it? Above the water, we're very graceful, and underneath our legs are going.
Absolutely, but we all wear masks, and they do serve as a purpose. It's when they stop us being in touch with our real self and our true feelings, and become, and our self becomes suppressed to meet an end that you've got to question, is the cost worth it?
It just holds us back so much, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I want to go back to, we talked about at the beginning about what you were passionate about in terms of your work, and you were talking about women's health, but I know the other thing that you're really passionate about, which is very much linked to women's but also men's health, is the weight loss, the gastric band program that you do. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and just tell us about that, how it works, what it's for, and how you feel about it, because I know you're very passionate about it.
The weight loss program is 4 sessions. We start by fitting a virtual gastric band. Now, our subconscious doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction.
It's that mind-body connection, isn't it?
So whatever you tell yourself and whatever you believe that you're telling yourself, you're right. That's your reality. That's fact. So we trick kind of the subconscious mind into believing that we've had a gastric band fitted, so our stomach is a lot smaller. We'll get fuller quicker by eating smaller meals, but we also look at the emotional side of eating. So why do you eat? There's sort of the sneaky snackers, which are the people who maybe secretly eat, and they know they're doing it, and there's a shame attached to it, so they do it away from other people. There's the people that just sit and eat kind of mindlessly, if you like. I know that sounds quite nasty, and I don't mean it to be, but in front of the telly, or
they're just not aware, are they?
The cinema. So you'll get sweets and popcorn, and you're so engrossed with the film or the whatever it is you're watching that you don't notice how much you're putting in your body, and you miss the signals from your stomach to say, I'm satisfied, I'm full, I don't need any more, please stop. We just keep putting it in. Stress eating, emotional eating, whether you're upset or maybe a bit giddy, overexcited. So there's quite a few different reasons why people do overeat. I think as parents, we can actually act quite harmfully, because I know as a child I was told, and I certainly told my children, if you don't eat your dinner, then you're not having a pudding.
I've heard that.
What a child saying, I'm full, I don't want this. So we're forcing them to eat something they don't want so they can eat more. And when you stop and look back, you think, that really does not make sense, does it?
I had if you don't eat that now, you'll, like, if it was lunchtime, if you don't eat that now, you'll get it for your tea.
Yes. Which, you know what, if you leave it and you're giving it for your tea, as long as it's still safe to eat, it's far better than making a child eat food there and then.
Yeah. We're programmed, aren't we, from a very young age to... I can even remember being forced to eat foods I really did not like that made me want to be sick. Yeah. And even now, like broad beans, I cannot even look at a broad bean because I was forced to eat them till I had to run to the toilet to be sick. And I can't even look at one. And that's still, and I'm 52 next year. So that's ingrained in me.
Yeah. And, I mean, I'm dreadful because my kid's partner, one of my daughter's partner, I think it was, said, I put so much weight on since I've started coming here. He said, you never stop feeding me. Well, I only say, oh, I've got this, do you want some? He said, yeah, but I don't feel like I can say no. So that's something else that we need to look at. It is actually okay to say no to food.
Again, it goes back to that worried about what someone's going to think of us if we say no. We don't want to offend. He didn't want to offend you by saying no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now if people come and say, don't eat it if you don't want it, but if you're there, help yourself, you know. So I'm, again, through doing this kind of work, I thought, I mean, I've contributed to people putting weight on. That's really bad. But the food's generally all right for family. So
the program itself is much more than just the gastric band. For the listeners that don't know what a virtual gastric band is, it's basically bariatric surgery without the physical cutting you open. And
so there's none of the risks, and it's a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And you can also get it done because at the moment, I believe there's something like is it a 4-year waiting list?
It's 30 weeks for the consultation, and then they reckon it's about a 2-year waiting list.
Yeah.
We have clients that have been waiting over a year just to get the appointment to say, and to get the counsel. They have to have counselling and they see a health psychologist. So before they even go onto the list for the actual surgery. So the whole process is a long time.
Yeah. And you hear horror stories about people bursting the bands and, having all kinds of problems. So, of course, with the hypnotherapy techniques and the mind management, just looking at something differently has massive benefits, and it doesn't have the health risks that surgery has, because it is quite significant surgery that people fully understand how significant it is and what the consequences can be. But this is why diets don't work, because they don't always look at the emotional side. And, even down to kids, if a child falls over, pick it up, give a cuddle, and you go, there you are, big boy, big girl, whatever, have a chocolate.
Have a biscuit.
Have a bit of cake, make you feel better. So we then lodge that food makes us feel better.
Yeah.
But it doesn't solve the problem. So we keep eating and the problem stays there. So we eat a bit more. Then we go on a guilt trip because we're putting weight on and we feel bad and we don't feel comfortable and we want to change. So we look at breaking the cycle. And the biggest part is kind of listening to our stomachs, accepting that we can say no to food and understanding that when we understand why we eat, it might be that we have other stuff that we need to deal with. Because as I say, you might get soothing feelings for a short time, but the underlying reason stays there. So whether it's stress, whether it's just having a busy family life, how can you rearrange your routine? Can you ask for support off family or partner or whoever? Maybe when children get older, and they can start taking responsibility for doing a bit of cleaning, a bit of tidying up. Don't let them tidy their own room. Build some space in for yourself, so the stress, the anxiety, and you can have that precious time to focus on yourself. Because if you don't look after yourself, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're struggling. And at that point, you're going to find it really difficult to look after anybody else.
Yeah.
So self-care isn't selfish. It's essential. It really is essential. Females, very often we take on family responsibilities and we feel unable to. But there's no harm in saying to a guy, like, looking after the kids while I'm going for a walk, or I'm going to the gym, or I'm going to meet a friend. It's a change for them. They might have to get used to it, but it's changing behaviours.
Yeah. And like I say, those behaviours are programmed into us from a very young age. It's what becomes our normal, isn't it? And then it's hard to shake that sometimes, which is where these therapies come into their own, don't they?
Hypnotherapy is absolutely wonderful for changing your perspective, getting that understanding, and releasing the memories that we can understand where it comes from. And the inner child work is so wonderful for soothing childhood wounds, fears, because that child is still within us. We carry that. Anything that happened to us as a child, we still carry it inside of us. So if we can go back and heal that, give your child a hug, your inner child.
Yeah.
Connect with him or her. Give them a hug. Tell them everything's going to be all right, Have a conversation with them. So
have fun with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Release them. Let them come out.
Yeah.
Go out there. Be childlike. Pick up the leaves. This time of year is absolutely wonderful. Find a park. Park keepers might not like it. Find a park. I used to love going to Dunham Massey, because all along the wall with the trees, you could have like 2 or 3 foot of leaves. And even now, I can't help myself. See a big pile of leaves, I've got to run through it and pick them up.
I've got a really good excuse, because my girls, especially Rosie, loves just when there's crunchy leaves, she's straight in there. So I just get in there with her. It's nothing better. I can use the excuse that, the dog loves the leaves. But really, I'm like,
it was the dog, not me. I'm just getting her back on her leaves.
So I know you've got a group starting on the 15th of November, haven't you, for your next group for your weight loss? And then we are doing it again in the new year and at Easter. So we'll put all the details for people to have a look at that. And I just want you to just clarify, if people think that you have to be massively overweight to benefit from the virtual gastrogram, that's not true, is it?
Absolutely not. This works equally as well, whether you've just got a few pounds or a few stones. Regardless of how much weight you want to lose, this is very effective because it's a mindset.
Yeah.
So once you can manage and understand and connect with your body, it's good for a few pounds or a few stones. It doesn't matter.
It's about setting healthy habits, isn't it? And then the knock-on effect is not only do you lose weight, but those effects will ripple over into other areas of your life. So you'll be much more positive and much more self-aware about everything, not just your weight. Yeah,
well, one of the common things is, I'm this big. I don't feel confident anymore. I don't want people looking at me. I don't want to be the centre of attention. I don't want to go for the promotion and have to stand in front of the team. I don't want to join the choir anymore. I don't want to go to the theatre lessons anymore because I don't want to stand on the stage in front of hundreds of people when I'm looking like this. Even, regardless of how much weight you want to lose, It's not looking at somebody of 5'10", big build, should be 11 stone, 10 stone, whatever it is. This program is solely focused on getting the body size and shape that you want. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's how you think. It's about how you feel and what you want to achieve. So although during the program, I ask people to weigh themselves, that's a way of tracking how effective it is being. Some people said, no, I'm not doing it. I don't agree with weighing every week. That's fine. You know, I'm not going to stand there with a big stick and beat anybody up because they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It is good. And it lets me know as well how effective it is.
It's like the pain scale, isn't it? If we're working with a client and they've got pain, we ask them to rate it just so that we know we're going in the right direction. So it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But there are other ways of measuring it. What clients very often say is, I've not really cut down my meal size, but I'm not snacking anymore. Brilliant. Fantastic. Because once if you're a person that is constantly snacking or eating, just stopping that will get rid of so many empty calories or unnecessary calories. It's going to make a massive difference. Now, we don't expect miracles. In the first week, people tend to lose the most weight, which is expected, whatever you're doing. But then we're aiming for between £1 and £2 a week. That's all.
Which is a healthy way to do it.
It's healthy and it's sustainable as well.
Yeah.
So if you lose weight slowly and gradually, you are more likely to keep it off. Now, the other thing that really makes this an effective program, there are no banned foods.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to group your foods. There's none of this red and green days and starving days. And you can't eat chocolate, you can't eat cake, you can't have a pudding, you can't do this. Because I'll tell you now, Joe, someone tells me I can't do something, I will prove them wrong.
If someone said to me, you can't have chocolate, that's the first thing I'm going to do is go and get some chocolate.
Watch this. You can eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
Now, I've done this. I did the gastric band 4 years ago.
Yeah, you had it fitted, didn't you, as a client?
I had it fitted because even as a hypnotherapist, I can do some work myself, but I can't do the real deep work on myself. So I called on a colleague and I had it fitted. I'd tipped 17 stone 2 and I'm 5'10". I was heading towards a size 24 clothing and I felt awful. The GP told me that I was I was facing a knee replacement. And I thought, I'm too young for this. Just no way I'm going to do it. So I came and I did a bit of research. And I think for every £2 of weight we lose, we take off something like, is it £8-10 of pressure from our knees? I'd have to look it up to be sure, but it was an awful lot of pressure on our knees. And I thought, right, that's the way I've got to go then. Because there's no point having a knee replacement, feeling like this, because my knee's still going to suffer. And I'm going to have a knee replacement. And if I ruin that, there's nowhere to go then, is there?
No.
So, right, got to lose weight. So that really was the trigger for me to start a serious way. I tried every crackpot diet on the market and made myself really poorly at some points. So I fitted this. I eat cake. I have puddings. I don't have it every day, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't be losing weight. But I don't deprive myself of anything. I am now 13 stone 10.
Wow.
Now, again, you've got to think of your mental barriers and your self-limiting beliefs, because I said if I could get down to 14 stone, I'd be happy. So I was happy at 14 stone and I could not, for the life of me, get below 14 stone.
Because you told yourself that was the weight you were going to be happy at.
That is the weight. So I thought, you know what? This is crazy. Last year, my mental health took a dip and I put weight on and I got back up to 15 stone 4. So in March, I thought, right, this has got to stop. It's coming off again. The aim was to be 13.5 stone by Christmas. No pressure. I'm not putting pressure on myself. So I'm now 13 stone 10.
Wow.
So I've got £2 to lose to get to the weight that I want to. So once I've got there, I'm going to have to look at my mindset again. Because if I want to get down to 13 stone, I can't keep telling myself I'm happy at 13.5 stone.
Yeah.
Because I'm happy there. I don't need to lose any more weight. So why should I, kind of thing. So we have to be very careful with the messages we give ourselves. So it's positive speaking. I am losing weight. I am capable of this. I am doing it. And this, just visualize yourself as a person that you want to be.
Yeah.
But it is all self-focused. It doesn't matter what other messages we're getting from society, from the media, from friends, from families. It's just focusing on ourselves.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's going to help an awful lot of people. Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what are the most important lessons that you've learned in life?
It's definitely have that self-belief, have the confidence to actually do what you want to do and move to the life that you want to live, be the person you want to be. And it's never too late to do that. A lot of people say, I'm too old, it's not worth it. It is.
Absolutely.
For me, it is. For me, it was in the past. Stop listening to the negative messages I'm getting from everybody else and start listening to myself. Although people get upset with some of the things we do, as long as I can sit there and say, I haven't hurt anybody, I'm doing it with all good intentions, I'm doing it for my own self-development or my own pleasure. They just don't like what I'm doing, full stop. I don't worry about them anymore. I don't expend that energy and I don't give people that power over me to stop me doing it.
Great lesson.
It is just try to do what you want to do. We all have the limitations. I'm not sort of, trying to bypass that. Life, we have limitations, all of us. But if you want something and you want it bad enough, you'll get it. You'll get there. Not everything in this life is instant, but the motivation and determination to achieve something is what gets us through. And that is the same for anybody and everybody, regardless of where you are on the social scale. Absolutely. Hard work, determination, is common. We don't get anything for nothing in this world. So I think the most important lesson for me was stop listening to everybody else and listen to myself. Yeah.
And finally, what advice would you give to someone who wants to live a healthier, happier and more balanced life?
Decide what you want and go for it. Just do it. The hardest thing in anything is that first few steps. First step in doing anything is what will send our anxiety or our fear rocketing. But just do it. There's very little in this world that is actually life-threatening. Some things might be. I'm not quite sure about throwing myself out of an aeroplane, even with a very good parachute. But, even when you think about the extreme sports, the equipment is so safe. There's always an unknown element in life.
Yeah.
Don't let that one thing, that one doubt, hold you back. Just go for it. It might mean learning something, testing something, but don't look at things as a failure. Things might not go the way you want it, but look at it as a learning point, not as a failure.
Yeah.
Go back that step, go back 2 steps and think, right, I'm going to do it differently. Pick yourself up and try again. If you're feeling as if you're defeated, then there's an anchor in the past that's holding you there.
Yeah.
So, just keep moving and you'll break those ties and you'll get your confidence. You'll learn the new skills and you will achieve what you want.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for chatting to us today, for sharing all about your wellness and self-care journey. There's a lot in there for a lot of us to take away, and even those of us that know, it's a good reminder that we need to be doing those things. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, Jo. And yeah, we all learn off each other.
We do.
We all keep learning.
Thank you, Catherine.
All right. Thanks, Jo.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I absolutely loved chatting with Catherine. She raised some really important points about how mindset and self-limiting beliefs can hold us back. And of course, she shared some fabulous self-care and self-love tips, and I'm so grateful to her. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found the discussion and the tips covered really helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do leave a rating and a review and share it with your friends and family. Pop along to our website at thefullspectrumcentrelimited.com and join our self-care and wellness newsletter club. You'll receive our free 55-page printable self-care guide and workbook. Well, that's all for this episode, but I really look forward to seeing you next week. Take care and bye for now.